Sounds good.
Hi, this is David Rice from Hit Christian Substack. I am on Rumble, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Missouri Liberty Radio. I'm here today with Lance Talley. He is the owner of Down South Fried Fish Co. or Fish Company. He has a food truck and he travels around to different places in the Ozark with it. He's also a member of Hopedale Baptist Church, father of twin girls, and avid Chiefs fan. So, of that list, Lance, what's the most important?
Not the most important. Well, I mean, Christ first and then family second, then work third, most likely would be the way that would go. But I wouldn't do the girls justice if I didn't think that people usually come for them first.
Right. Yeah, your daughters are sweet, and so I do notice that a lot of people come up in church and talk to them when they
Absolutely
get a
no, and they'll
chance.
talk back now. That's the real problem.
That's dangerous. So, tell me a little bit about Down South Fried Fish Co. Why did you get into having a food truck, and what's your purpose behind it?
Sure, absolutely. So the story for how we got to the food truck actually was actually a little bit God led in a way. There was a previous owner. His name was JD. He I ran into him probably three different times before I realized he was the same guy, which was interesting. I ran into him once at the food truck festival. No, sorry, the Sertoma Duck Races actually is where that was. His first year being open. Had the fish. It was delicious. Thought, man, that's really good, and then ran into him again actually at Hopedale when he was working as a church consultant of some form. I didn't know who the nicely dressed bald man was walking around during the sermon, but I was on security that day, and it seemed like maybe I should speak to him. So I
Sure.
did, um, and then ran into him again when he started parking over at the farm and home on Wednesday nights in Ozark when I would head out to go do the board meetings for We Hope. And it was about the third time I ran into him that I realized he was the same guy and said, "Wait, you're the same guy." And he looked at me and he
Mhm.
was like, yes, maybe. What? And it was kind of a funny story that got us started, right? So at that point, we developed a relationship, and I'd come to see him pretty regular, and he apparently got called back full time to the ministry at the conclusion of 2022 and posted that he was planning on selling his food truck. And it wasn't even 2 weeks prior that I was talking to Matt, my manager of the truck there, who I was like, you know what we should do? We should start a food truck because we worked together in Waffle House for a couple of years there and
Mhm.
had experience in that industry and were good at it and thought that'd be kind of a fun adventure. And sure enough, JD posted they were selling and I messaged him and said, "You can't be serious." And he was like, "Actually, I've been looking to talk to you." And one thing led to another, including talking to my wife, going, "Well, how do you feel about this?" And my wife, who's not known for not being anxious about big financial moves, said she had
Mm.
a piece about it. So
Well, that's
when I was
good.
resuscitated from the immediate shock factor that I had, the we went with it. We went ahead and purchased it because I knew I was getting a superior product and some established clientele. And since then, it's just been one adventure after the other. We try to service Springfield usually around lunchtime, and then we hit all the towns surrounding Springfield for dinner.
So you travel a lot, and I've always been kind of curious just about the operation of a food truck because you have a lot of things going on back there. How do you keep things from just flying around as you're moving from place to place?
Don't sometimes. That was a challenge in year one. I'd find the freezer by the door sometimes, which is not a good thing.
Yeah.
It is now safely secured, but sometimes you have to get a little creative. Tarp straps, some bolts and other things that you can do to make things happen. Um, but in general, everything is when you first build the trailer secured. If you're adding other things, that's when it gets interesting.
Sure.
But yeah, you make sure it's secured before you roll out, and sometimes you have to load and unload things. We use coolers quite frequently with ice, and so those get rolled out a lot and rolled back in.
Where do you access your fish? And what kind of fish is it? Just so everybody
It's
knows.
catfish. Well, sure.
Yeah.
It's I mean, we put fish on the menu because that way I can change my mind.
Sure.
But it's catfish, and that's what we
Yeah.
get. We get it from a wholesaler in Springfield. So,
Okay. So it is, I assume I've had it and I'm not a fish
and
fan, but I thought it was good for fish. And obviously, I wish I could say I love it, but my wife loves it. She always wants to go and see where you are. Unfortunately, we just don't travel as much in the
That's
evening as we would like to. So, but you speaking of traveling around, what are all your locations?
Okay, so we service a variety of locations, quite a few. We're probably in excess of about 20 to 25 spots. The
Wow.
way we run our schedule is we're typically at somewhere for lunch and then again somewhere else for dinner. So I could very well be at like O'Reilly's corporate at lunchtime and the farm and home in Ozark for dinner. I could be at the Fordland prison for lunch. I could be at Seymour for dinner. But we service basically we try to do kind of corporate lunches at lunchtime and
Hmm.
hit the people who are at work that day and they're having their lunch hour. And so we could be at Mercy Hospital, we could be, um, CNH Industrial, Bohannon's Auto, digital monitoring products over there by Industrial Row, things like that. And then dinner time, we try to hit the rural towns that kind of have probably some less dinner options because obviously Springfield's
Sure.
known for its restaurant to people ratio.
Yes.
Um, but we go out, we'll roll out to Sparta on like a Tuesday night, or Turner Station holds an event every Tuesday where they have some food trucks run out in that little post office town.
Okay.
And otherwise Ozark, we're in Ozark a bunch because we're based in Ozark.
Sure.
Nixa, Republic, Willard, Seymour. We'll travel all the way out to Cassville, Mountain Grove, um, Rogersville. We've got plans to expand into probably other places, probably along I-44 as well. Like we're talking about Fairgrove, Marshfield, Stratford, maybe Smash Grove, things like that. We go to Clever already. That's usually every other Monday. Yeah, there's lots of places. Basically, we've got wheels, so we intend to use them and go where the people are, which I find to be a far more effective model than a standalone and trying to solicit people to come to you.
Yeah, this was my next question. What is the advantage of having a truck that moves around versus having a restaurant that people always know that's the location, that's the place I can go to and depend on?
Absolutely. And you're right. There are pros and cons to both sides of that because you're right. If the restaurant's there, it's always open. There's no
Mm,
question about where you're going to be because food trucks are hard to find sometimes if they're mobile. Now, there are
sure.
some food truck owners that just pick one spot and sit there, but I think that defeats the purpose of a food
Hmm.
truck in my mind. If I've got wheels, I should go where the people are, go where the events are, especially because we do one thing. We sell the best fish anywhere, fries and homemade sauces. And so we do that. We do it well, we do it fast. But as good as it is, you eat it every day and it starts to lose its luster a little bit. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure you travel around so you hit enough other places that you're there maybe once a month or every other week and that way people are ready to have you again when you get back. And a food truck obviously allows me to do that where I would have to pick somewhere at a standalone where I could just build enough clientele to really keep it running. The other challenge is, of course, staffing.
Hmm.
With a food truck, okay, if I have an equipment failure or something like that, and I have to close down briefly, I can take the truck to get repaired real quick. I can staff it with less people because it's a small confined space where a restaurant or a standalone brick and mortar might require people to be there and there's no money being made. The hours
Yeah.
from 2 to 4 are typically pretty slow. But in those instances, it's just me and the truck driving somewhere else. So,
Hmm. So there are advantages for you as a business owner to be able to move around. And I get that. I wouldn't want to have the same food every single day, day in and day out. I have alpha gal. I don't know if you know that.
mhm,
I think we've maybe talked about it, but I get really tired of chicken tenders. And so
sure.
when we go to restaurants, that's usually everybody else is eating a steak and I'm sitting there eating chicken tenders. And so
Mhm.
I appreciate that fact that there's some variety. What kind of regulations do you face? Do some places say, hey, we don't really want food trucks here, or are most people pretty welcoming about it?
Uh, we run the gamut. Most people are welcoming about it, but the terms of which we have to reach in order to be at certain locations can be a challenge. So, for example, Mercy Hospital a charitable donation to their foundation every
Mhm.
time we're there, and that's fine. We go and we pay the donation because they have a clientele base that you know they're captive for the most part. They've got a limited time span and nowhere nearby to really go eat. So they come by and they'll say hi, and we'll do really well. And the charitable donation is tax deduction, so we
Sure.
pay to be there. Other places, they'll guarantee you a minimum sales salary. So you could go. We had that with Expedia actually when we were doing business with them because their cafeteria was closed. So in
Mhm.
order to ensure that they had options for their employees, they called up a bunch of food trucks and then said, "What's your minimum?" And we said, "Well, I got to make X amount per meal in order to justify being here."
Yeah.
And they would, if you didn't hit that total with them, which I mean, with the many people at Expedia, that was, that would have been hard to do, but not
Mhm.
impossible. Sometimes you could fall short. Then they would make up the difference up to that amount, right?
Okay.
Um, and so that was kind of the trade off. As for other regulations, the probably big stickler about food trucks would be every county requires you to have a health permit in that county. Every city requires you to have a business license in that city.
Okay.
And if you're not in that city, sometimes even the counties require a county business license. So the more locations you have, the more paperwork
And
and
taxes you're
paying to
paying.
seizure that you've got to be doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense, not in a way like that makes sense like, wow, I'm so glad that everyone's taking a piece of the pie out of your business, but I can understand
Right.
cities doing that. So when people are when people show up to your food truck, what is the one meal that seems the most requested?
Well, that's easy. It's the fish and fries because I mean, we do one thing, we do it well, we do it fast.
So you just do
So
one
yeah,
one
fish
day.
and fries.
All right. So
Mhm.
tell me about that fish and fries.
So the fish and
Shoots.
fries, they you get 7 pieces of fish. The pieces are not nuggets; they're chicken tender size strips. So
Mhm.
they're pretty long, substantial, maybe about 6 inches or so, and maybe about an inch wide. They you get 7 of those, basket of fries that goes with it, one of each of our homemade sauces. The homemade sauces, we've got a homemade tartar sauce. We call it the down south tartar sauce. It's got a dill base to it, so really solid there. For
Okay.
all the tartar sauce lovers, it's fantastic. The other sauce we call the down south fish sauce. Ironically, there's no fish in the fish sauce, but that's what we call it because it's good for dipping fish. It's probably akin to like a Brahms sauce or a Freddy's fry sauce or a Raisin Cane sauce. A little bit of a kick
Okay.
to it, but it's not spicy. People love that, especially in Ozark. People we'll sell and we sell them an ounce at a time, and people come and ask for 8. Honestly, we're flirting with the idea of trying to get that bottled and on some shelves at some price cutters or something.
That's not a bad
Um,
idea. I think the local price cutter
yeah,
is
because I mean,
usually
people
pretty.
love it, and it's got purposes with it for sure. Sorry, go ahead. I
Yeah.
cut you off.
No, I was going to say the local price cutter is usually pretty open to businesses putting items like that on the shelf.
Mhm. Well, and it's not the first time I've heard of other food trucks doing it. Technically, Fire Family Barbecue, they have some sauces on the shelf there, and they're a food truck. Mexican Villa did that for a long time.
Mhm.
Um,
They put their
they've got
taco
stuff on the
sauce.
shelves there too.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. The London Calling is often out in front of the price cutter in Ozark. And so I don't know if they
Mhm.
have any of their um I don't think they have sauces in London Calling that I'm aware
Not that I
of.
know of. I mean, they have, I think, a tartar sauce or something that comes with it on their fish and chips truck.
Mm,
Most of their stuff is pastry form out of their regular truck, is my
yeah,
understanding.
all self-contained
Um,
kind of.
yeah.
Yeah, so when people so they order the 7 strips, the fries, what are they looking at for price?
So the price on that's 13, of course, plus taxes based on wherever we are.
Sure.
And that'll get you that whole meal that's set up there. So it's the portion size is good. You're usually busting at the seams. And uh, that's actually one of the biggest problems I have with some of my stuff right now is when I try to close the boxes, the latches break on them because there's more in there than I probably should be putting in there.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that people understand they're getting what they pay for. I'm not in the business of cheating people. I'm in the business of feeding people. So
Well, that's a
we
good
feed them appropriately and we charge the same.
well, that's a good policy to have, especially for a food truck. It seems like when you go to a lot of places now, the prices have gone up and the portions have gone down. And I know that's inflation eating into the cost of everything, but it's nice to know that you're trying to do the opposite.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And I did. The size of the strips that I'm putting out are bigger than the size of the strips that the previous owner had been putting out. Mostly I think that was part of because I was just cutting them bigger. I hadn't gotten as
mhm,
practice as he had. But I decided instead of trying to adjust how I was doing it, I should just adjust the way it was has always been done. And so far I think that's worked out to my advantage. I think that's been very good for both me and the customers.
so good for business. So, do
Mhm.
you go ever enter your fish basket, do you call it fish basket, into contest?
I have not. I've been tempted to. They do contest at like the food truck festival that happens every September. They're actually having the first annual food Ozarks food truck rally this weekend, June 8th on the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. It's held by the same people who do that food truck fest. And I know they
Mhm.
have like a best dish contest. So it's possible I could enter into that and see how it fares.
Yeah.
Now, the way I usually do that instead is instead of entering contests and being judged by judges, I give out a lot of free samples. So I
Mhm.
let people be the judge of it in real time at the window. It's like, hey, have you ever had it before? If their answer is no, it's like, well, we'll fix that. Matt will jokingly say, we call that a decider piece there, and we let them eat there. You know,
Yeah, that's how we got our sample when we were going through the Sertoma duck races last year. Can't believe it's been a year. So
yeah.
I I want to make sure I catch everything about that you want to tell us about your business. You, why did you choose to be a business owner when you could be working behind the desk and because it's hot, it's greasy, it's sometimes dirty to be working in a food truck. You could be doing clean white collar job, you know,
Mhm.
don't go home smelling like fish. Why did you choose this?
That's an excellent question. I picked it for a variety of reasons, but I think ultimately it's the legacy of it. So I'm working easily 2.5 times the amount of work I was doing to the job prior. The job
Mm,
prior, I was very much set schedule, Monday to Friday. I had really advantageous time off packages put ahead of me on that. I didn't have to, I could leave work at work. I made decent money, but when this opportunity came available, it's really opened the door for me to take care of my girls in a way that I couldn't have done otherwise. And it puts me in the driver's seat, which is also kind of interesting because I've enjoyed that. I've been middle management at a lot of places before. And the real
mhm.
challenge there is, yeah, you've got employees that you got to take care of, but you've also got some guy on top hounding, breathing down your neck about the opposite problem. And you're like, okay, well, I got to find a way to somehow mitigate this problem while still taking care of my staff and keeping myself employed. Where here, I I just have to worry about taking care of the staff and the customers. So this allows me to have a bigger impact on my girls' future because now they can be employed. I mean, they can work for me as soon as they're able. I can
Mm,
pay them. They can have retirement accounts well before most kids can have retirement accounts. They can, learn a great many things that I probably couldn't have done if I had took them into the office, right?
yeah,
Um, I
there
have some
been tons of
flexibility in it,
restrictions.
yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot of flexibility in it. I'm able to take the time and sit down and do stack interviews.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. I definitely am going to put your name in front of Joshua Heston because he does State of the Ozarks and see if he'd be willing to do an interview
Good.
with you also.
Um, and it's got very much a kill it and bring it home type of mentality to it, right? It's live or
Mm,
die by sales, which is kind of cool because I'm only thusly handicapped with whatever I can or can't produce. And so
mhm.
when the business is producing more, I'm coming home with more, instead of if the business isn't producing more, I'm coming home with less. But if I work at a white collar job, the success of the business is great, but all that really guarantees me is my continued position at that business.
Yeah, they just don't
Um,
fire you.
yeah, they just don't fire me or they don't let me go or they don't close up the doors and everyone's out of my job. Instead,
Mhm.
now I get to be the guy who's like, all right, I'm not only am I taking care of my family, but I'm able to create opportunities now to help take other care of other people's families and give them the opportunity to earn money and build this food truck We call it a food truck empire, even though it's just the one truck. But to
I
help
like
build
it.
on this, right?
It's like a Mad
Yeah,
Max empire.
right. So
Sorry, I just had a Mad
we
Max image of several food trucks going down the Australian desert highway, you know?
yeah. And so but it's the same idea. And so I get to include these people in it and take them along. And I guess there's just a sense of it, being a direction God was taking me by the circumstances He set up on how we got there in the first place. And then the continued success of the business, I think, helps lead that way. And now I'm responsible for not just my family, which it does provide for my family quite well,
Yeah.
but it also provides for my family's future, which is a step that I think a lot of people don't have the privilege of getting to do. They're paycheck to paycheck. They're just wanting to get by. Retirement's out in
Mm,
the future. They're not even thinking about theirs, let alone their kids, right?
sure.
But then on top of that, it allows me to take care of other people's futures so they can start growing and paying their bills. And we go that far, all while the introducing people to this fish that I fell in love with back in 2021. So
Well, I think that's the
yeah,
brilliance.
I think that was probably the driving force.
I think that's the brilliance of a
Sorry.
small business. It creates a community and an engine that drives not just the growth of your family and the growth of your income, but it drives the growth of those around you who come alongside you as employees or staff, or even accountants. I think you're pretty good with it with accounting, right? So,
Yeah, I keep track of
yeah,
my numbers.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And so there's there's that beauty of what a small business can do and how it can move forward, which kind of leads me to my next question. If you're going to have a second food truck, what would be your dream food to sell on it
Well,
outside of
ironically, my
fish?
second food truck would be another down south food truck if I
Okay.
had another one going.
All
And
right.
that's just because right now I've got the unique problem of I've got more locations than I've got truck to get to.
Sure.
Um, and so as we expand, would go that way. As in, oh man, let's see, favorite food to sell.
Like if it was
It's kind
your,
of loaded because
uh-huh.
I don't know. At home, I enjoy like making ribs. I love baby back ribs, things like that. But I
Yeah.
would hate to sell them. I love cooking it, but selling it would be such a challenge because a barbecue truck, like there's a bunch of unique challenges with that because of the prep time. So you
Oh
have
yeah.
to be out prepping ahead of time, like 14, 15 hours. And then
Mm,
on top of that, you've got what if you sell out, or worse yet, what if you don't?
mm,
So you've got to really thread the needle on a few things. You'd almost have to have like a full-time prep person who's cooking not for the next day, but the following. And so you've got 2 days worth of inventory. You'll never sell out and you can adjust accordingly. Like, yeah, there's some steps you have to do there. So favorite food to cook is currently baby back ribs. Favorite food to sell?
mm.
I don't know. I like the fish. I'd probably enjoy selling wings. That'd be a fun truck.
Yeah,
Some
that'd be an
chicken
interesting
wings, things
truck.
like that.
All
Say
wings,
what?
nothing but wings. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, like wings and well, I mean, you'd have like maybe some celery and carrot sticks for a side, but the main
Sure.
attraction would be like your wings and your sauces. So you'd come up with some unique sauces. You'd have some main staples, and you'd probably do something like that. Um, I think that would be kind of fun. You don't see a lot of those around.
No,
Uh,
that'd be cool.
I'm good at breakfast food thanks to my Waffle House days. I don't know how well that would do in a truck unless I ran it overnight.
You could
But yeah,
sell
favorite food to
cereal.
cook is ribs. Say what?
You could sell cereal. I was just making a joke. Lucky
I
Charms
could
out of the
sell
food
cereal,
truck.
be one of those places like a mobile continental breakfast from a hotel. And
The worst food possible.
it so would. And I bet I'd still make some money on it depending upon where I am.
Right?
But I have to go to a lot of elementary schools.
You show up at a
Um
hotel parking lot, it'd be just a great one grade above what they're serving
they're
in the hotel
selling, they'd be
lobby.
like, yeah, it's like, yeah, you could get that, or you could have real sausage. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Fresh bacon instead of microwaved.
exactly. Yeah, that would be
Hmm.
cool. All right. Well, I appreciate this interview a lot, Lance. And you're my first business I've interviewed. So if you want to tell any other
Fantastic.
business owners about this,
Yeah.
um, the goal is to just I know I covered a lot of politics, but I also want to cover what's going well in Ozark and Christian County. And so this is part
Hmm.
of it. Just expanding that reach of all the amazing things going on with the really cool uh business owners or really cool creatives like with the I've been interviewing authors also. So
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm happy to, I guess, help pioneer a new avenue of people that you can meet with and extrapolate good conversation with.
yeah, that's the goal. It's just fun, easy conversation.
Well, fantastic, man. Well, I appreciate you having me on and let me share about my vision of the future and where we're going with the Down South Fried Fish Co.
All right, well, you take care. Bye, Lance.
You do the same, man. I'll catch you next time.
See you.